Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Art of Slowing Down podcast. It's your host here, Annalena, and I'm super delighted to have the wonderful Kelli Preston with me. Hi, Kelli.
Hello. I'm so honored to be here.
Yeah, so I'm going to read your super fun bio quickly, and then we're going to take it away, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to share how I connected with you last year. I don't know, I found you, I think, thanks to ads. Now that I'm saying it, I think it was through an ad. Yeah.
Network.
Yeah, exactly. And she was doing branding, and because I was into refining my branding colors and I was still searching for something. And she really popped out, and she's also into astrology, human design, those kind of things. So I had a session with you and it really helped me align with my brand a lot. So you do a lot of things with brands. So you're a brand designer and mentor at Square Peg Studio. And it's basically a brand building hub where you no longer comply with the cookie cutter approaches, right? You help people to stand out. So you call yourself the Sherpa guiding entrepreneurs up the mountain of self-discovery only to ski down the valley of kick-ass branding. That's your way of writing. It is so fun. So she's all about helping female solo entrepreneurs create a clear, connectable, and cohesive brand by combining personal development and brand development. So she's all about digging deep, real deep, to unearth the essence of your most authentic self so you can confidently strut your brand in a way that turns head and opens wallets. Because obviously we also got to make money, right? And I think
Gotta make money.
we all know what, I think you said this somewhere. I read it somewhere. Well, on our page, we'll talk about this in just a little bit, but that we don't think it's so important to have a brand, but we know when we purchase something from a brand how that feels, right?
Mhm. Totally. Like, I think the thing is with most entrepreneurs is most don't know what branding actually is. Like, yeah, we think it's like a logo or like a color or maybe even a tone in the language that you're using. But ultimately, we know a great brand when we experience it. And you can think about, and that creates loyalty. So you can think about products that if there's a certain shop that you go back to. I always think of there's the Our Place pans. And I don't know if basically I fell in love with their mission statement, their core values, but then you can also see it in the aesthetics that they present in all their material. So literally anytime they put anything out, I'm like, I don't even need knives, but I want your knives.
Yeah.
And so, and like you can think of Deb Gabor, who's a like major branding specialist. She calls that irrational loyalty. Like you can think about it with the people who are buying iPhones, like they're upgrading even though they just bought an iPhone 6 months ago, or they'll forever be Apple users, despite maybe the Pixel has a better camera or better functionality. So your brand becomes an experience, and it's even more so when you're a personal brand.
Mm,
So that's a
yeah.
big part of the creation of it is like understanding how am I creating an experience, and whether you're intentional about it or not, it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you, for me, branding aesthetics my entire life has been so important. And I cannot even have fun in my business. I think we briefly talked about it. I use Flowdesk for my emails. And I cannot imagine any other software because it's so pretty. It's so aesthetic. It gives me the tools to make it easy to have something beautiful. And
Absolutely.
for me, of course, my content is also important, what I write, but it's this space where it's just like I'm in a home and I feel like it's pretty. I feel so much better, and also to be more creative, right? It's kind of the context we have. So that
Yeah, and
one.
I think not everybody is going to be there in that, and that's okay. But if you
Yeah.
are, it's a big part of honoring that, and that's how
Mm.
I am too. Like every environment I'm in, even when I was in college, I was the one decorating our rental houses. Like
Yeah.
it was very much about my environment my external environment has a huge impact on my internal one.
Mhm.
And so I think that, oftentimes I talk about how your website is not for your clients, it's for you. It's about your place where you're paying homage to who you are. It's about you understanding who you are and creating almost like an altar. So you are showcasing yourself, and it's a place where you're having you're self-expressing, like the outfits that you wear, the way that you decorate your home, like the car that you drive, the way that you're self-expressing. Our self-expression is so important. And especially those that are more visually um interested or they're driven, that is where like, and I can tell those are my ideal clients, are people that are
Yeah.
like, beauty is important. I mean, I think beauty is important to all of us, but sometimes there are people that are more affected by their external environment.
Mm.
And so I think that's there's one part of creating an experience for your client with your branding, but one of the great ways to do that is you have the experience of it. Like you are creating this version of your self-expression and then people feel that from you. It's like when you walk into a room in your pajamas versus like your favorite outfit. Like how do you feel? Like sometimes you're a little bit more like if you're not feeling super confident, you're going to be more inward and you're not going to be um, very charismatic or as open as you would be if you are dressed in something that you feel amazing in.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think, like you said, some people don't care much about it. And I think when you were talking about also kind of felt like truth to me that the people that tend to really like and want beautiful aesthetics are also people that are more sensitive in general, right? To
Probably.
our environment. Because I mean, I mainly, as you know, work with introverts, highly sensitive people, empaths. And
Hmm.
yeah, I can walk in a room and if everything is dark and black, I'm like, okay, I don't feel good here. I like
Totally.
more light and airy and then earthy and and it changes. And then I like a pop of color as well. And so, but I think it's the energy also. I guess colors also carry energy, right?
They do. And like the thing is like, it always kind of baffles me a little bit when people are branding and they're doing it based on color psychology or they're doing it based on like color theory or even like trending colors or what their mentor is using. Ultimately, the color is you infusing you into it. So it's like, well, what matters to you? Like what delights your eyeballs? And then your audience gets to experience that. The very same way you choose your
Mhm.
outfits, the very same way like branding doesn't need to be this external to me, if you're doing your personal branding, it's very much an internal job. It's not an
Mhm.
external creation from somebody else. It's about you finding this piece of expression and then the world gets to experience that and they enjoy it because it's you poured into it. And generally that becomes a bit of a calling card to your clients, just like how your values are. It's not just about what you're offering or your pricing or your perfect messaging. It's also about like, oh my God, I love your Instagram. Your Instagram was so fun to look at, like, or I felt so soothed by your Instagram. Like, this is like you resonate with it's same thing with packaging. Like sometimes I'll be at like the grocery store at Whole Foods and I'll see a bottle of toner and I'm like, well, I want the modern funky one. I don't even know if it works better,
Yeah.
but I like the way the bottle looks. Like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it really is if you can kind of take the pressure out of thinking, I don't know enough, I don't know how to brand, or I don't know what the right branding thing is to do. Like how could you know? How could you know?
Mm.
The only way you can know is from inside.
Yeah. And that's why we have to slow down, guys. Exactly. So I would love to hear a little bit from your story, right? Because you probably, when you first, or how did you even get into branding? Because now you also bring in astrology, even AI. So I want to hear all about that.
Right. So a big part of how I started was I actually wasn't in branding at all. I was a health coach. I was an esthetician at the time and I was doing my website because I had just paid somebody, I think it was over $8,000 and I had gotten pregnant and so my business was brick and mortar and then I was like I don't think I want to have a brick and mortar with a newborn. So I went digital, but my whole site that I had just paid a lot of money for was all directed towards this brick and mortar situation. So I went in, it was WordPress at the time. And I was like, I was tech terrified. I was completely afraid of it. I had, definitely had the story that I was not good with tech. I was the last one of my friends to ever have a smartphone. I never checked my email. Like
Mhm.
it wasn't my zone at all. And so basically what happened is after I started fiddling in there, and then you like hit publish and you get to see your results. I was like, "Oh, this is really fun. This is like decorating a house. Like
Yeah.
this is this is art." And so I started to love that more than the work I was actually branding. And I had a few friends that were health coaches as well. And they were like, would you do my site? So I basically just started doing others' websites. And then I was getting into writing copy. And because that's kind of something I had always been done. That's what my undergraduate degree was in. So then I just started to kind of put two of them together, still not knowing what branding actually was. I was doing this for probably 5 years before I understood what
Mm.
branding actually was. And then I actually had a friend that was in marketing, and she started to ask me some questions where I was like, oh my gosh, I think I've missed the whole thing of what branding actually is. It's self-expression. It's me creating this like cohesive, clear, and charismatic energy or digital decorating in a way that people are like, I recognize that, or I resonate with that, or and then how I'm sharing myself. I think I was branding. I didn't know it. I don't think I had nearly as much clarity about it. And even then, I wasn't like creating like strategy documents ahead of time. It was literally like, let's throw things against the wall and hope they stick. And I wouldn't necessarily say that that wasn't working for me. I think it definitely made things harder than they needed to be. But shortly thereafter, I had an astrology reading. And in the reading, she was like, oh my goodness, you came here to create, like you're a creative. And I was self taught up until that point. I did not consider myself a creative. And there was something in hearing that I just unleashed. I was like, I'm owning this. I'm a
Mm.
designer. I don't care that I didn't go to a design school. Like, it was just like, I'm owning creative.
Love
And I think it
that.
was right at the time, Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic book also came out,
Yeah.
and she
I have
speaks
it on
about
my
that a
shelf.
lot. Do you?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And, like, those 2 energies kind of, like, came together, and I was like, "Okay, I'm doing this." And then, I started to realize that astrology was the mirror that it works so well. Any external tool that kind of shows you yourself because you're so inside yourself. You can't It's
Mm.
very difficult to see your gifts. It's very difficult to see your hangups because it's all you know. So it is your world.
Mm.
I've heard the line, you can't read the label from inside the bottle. And that to me is what it feels like. It feels very difficult to honor and revere and even speak to your challenges if you can't completely see them. And so astrology became that for me the more I understood that. And I was like, this is such an amazing tool for people creating a brand because you're essentially being given these guideposts of, well, what is my client struggling with? Because most of the time, our
Mm.
clients are the past and future version of ourselves. So
Yeah.
if we can see that with more clarity, like, hey, these are places I'm getting hung up in life, or like this is where I'm drawn to, if we can see that with more clarity, that we can then create offers, marketing copy, visuals that all speak to this very essence that's actually rolling around in us anyway. So sometimes it's just putting a name to it, and it creates this marketing material in a way that feels like you're not just throwing things against the wall and hoping they stick. And so basically what happened is I was using that with my clients, still not doing any sort of strategy. Like, it was pretty much like helping them get to know themselves, creating offers around that, but it wasn't like this, like, you had a foundation of, like, you knew of who your ideal client is, what makes you unique, and it wasn't until I was struggling, and this was just last year in my brand, where I was thinking about shutting it all down. I was really burnt out. Um, I started to take a moment, I paused, and I started to really dive into the gene keys and seeing my personality, my north and my south node in the gene keys, and just reading it and contemplating it, I got some amazing insight into my
Mm.
struggles
Mm.
and therefore my client struggles. So it was just like, oh my gosh, I missed this. Like, one of the biggest lines I read in there was being immobilized by indecision. And I'm like, that is a big part of what my clients are dealing with. Like, that's
Yeah.
why they don't have the brand. That's why. And like, so if I can really create solutions that speak to that, if I can speak to that in my Instagram posts and my sales page, um, it's like, then they're starting to understand more of the solution that I'm providing. And honestly, I understood it.
Mm.
So, and then once you understand it, it's your confidence your clients are buying. And so if you're not
Yeah.
super clear about your offer or why it's unique, or how it's helpful or what you can deliver, it's very hard for your clients to also feel clear about it as well or feel confident in it. And so that's when I started to really harness this idea of like brand strategy really needs to come first. It really needs like, and that really comes from this taking a moment to know yourself. And
Yeah.
my modalities have turned into astrology, human design, and gene keys. And then I was just taking notes on all of these. I was collecting them, I was putting them in a Google Doc. At the same time, I was also playing in AI. And so I started to feed ChatGPT all of my notes. And I was like, hey, based on this information, because ChatGPT, the paid version, you can now attach PDFs. And so I would just download my Google Notes as a PDF, attach it, and be like, based on this information, can you tell me who my ideal client avatar is? Can you tell me what their core struggles are? And the way that they proposed it, I missed. It was like the succinctness of what I was trying to say, they presented to me. And that was the great thing with AI is I'm like, this is AI is making it so much more accessible for the solopreneur to
Mm-hmm.
create a brand in a way that you would have had to have paid, high-end copywriters, marketing agencies in a way that you kind of have this coworker that's $20 a month if you're doing the paid version. And I do recommend doing the paid version. It's like the difference between a flip phone and an iPhone. Like it's
Yeah, who
definitely
who wants to have a flip phone these days?
right. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
world different. And so that's kind of where this idea, I was like, I want to help. I want to guide. I want to mentor solopreneurs in creating a personal brand. Like, let's level this playing field and make it more accessible
Mm,
and understand if you can deeply understand what a brand is, what makes yours unique, magnetic through really knowing yourself, and then taking the help of AI and having that help you generate content, help you create marketing messaging. So you're not always having to stare at the blank Google Doc. You have all of
yeah.
this information to be feeding to, because really, ChatGPT, what makes it an art? It's the art of the prompt. So if you're
Yeah.
feeding it delicious food, it spits back these amazing recipes,
Yeah, and these cooked meals we all wanna eat, yeah. Yeah,
right?
actually what you said is so important because when I had the session with you, I was in a place I was already close to my brand, but I think I told you I need more pep. I need some bright colors, but also not too much because I always know when I have too much bright colors and everything that is not my essence either because I have a very, like, soothing, grounding energy, and you nailed it. Like, you helped me get out of the indecision because I was like, "I need to change this." I didn't feel settled in it, right? And since then, which is more than almost probably 9 months ago or something like this, I feel really like, "Okay, I got my colors and I feel good with it, and I can stay with this for a while." I mean, obviously, we always evolve and change,
Totally.
but you really and I admired your I guess you just decided, you just pick, you just, like, go with what feels right, and I
Totally.
also, when you were talking, I was like, I think when we do it our own way, like this process you described, right? Even though it's much cheaper, right? It's our own creative process. I think that's actually much better client avatar and branding than if I were to pay a marketing company because it may not be me, right? There's still this
Totally.
like twist of what they think is gonna be successful versus,
Totally.
okay, me being myself is what attracts success, but it's not my main intention, to get something out of it because I have to feel joy. I have to feel the beauty of my brand. So I want to hang out with my brand all the freaking time.
Absolutely. Totally. Like it basically is like you're never really out of branding. Even if you're paying the
Mm,
designer, if you're paying the VA, if you're paying the copywriter, like you're always it's basic I've used this analogy. It's like having a baby and then being like, all right, I'm gonna take credit for you when you're 20 years old, but I'm not gonna raise you. It's like, but you have so much to infuse in them. Like,
mm,
it's it is you. And yes, people can help see you. I think having interpretation and helping people see things clearly, because again, we can't read the label from inside the bottle.
mm,
And so, but ultimately, it really does come down. It's hard to even offer direction if you don't even know where your magnificence is, or even like seeing, like, you know, I really struggle with indecision. I really do get immobilized by indecision. And so, seeing that as like one of my bigger, like, hangups from me getting to my end goal, I'm like, man, when you can see the places where you get stuck, the gift that you have in creating solutions and then
Mhm.
speaking to your client, like that's when you rate the words on your website or in your Instagram post where they're like, oh my God, were you in my head? Because it was so spot on. And that's where you're like communing. I swear it's like a collective consciousness where we're just like, hey, I can feel there's a problem out there. I'm going through it, or I'm just on the other side of it. I have the solution for you that maybe you haven't tried.
Mhm.
And that's ultimately like what we're doing. And so if we can really connect with it, I think there's something so easy about it and efficient. And then it also feels really good to be seen, like to
Mhm.
be really seen for who you are. And
Mhm.
for you to feel safe enough to be really seen, you need to see yourself first and then have this like reverence for it and understanding.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that's a projector and you talking.
Really?
I mean, the projector is all about being seen. No, we're gonna look at her charts in a little bit, but you are a generator and tropical, and I just revealed to you before because you were asking me in the truth idea, you are a projector. And so much of what you have said throughout this conversation so far is all about recognition, seeing yourself, and even your story. Like your people, your friends saw you and they called you out. They invited you, like, hey, can you do the branding? You didn't see it yourself first, right?
Oh, absolutely no. I would
That's
there's no way I would have done it.
that's what we call the recognition and invitation with a projector. So it's very, very typical. You can also relate it to the responding with a generator. There's
Totally.
also a little bit of a similar. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
So
And I think too, just, like hearing that I was creative, it was like, okay, that was an invitation to proceed, to like
yeah,
own it.
yeah. And like you say, I love what you said about the bottle and the label because it's sometimes just hard to see. That's why we need the other humans that already have figured it out, or they can help us reflect something back that we don't see from within
Or even
ourselves,
just
right?
offer a token of confidence, like, "Yep, that
Hmm.
looks great. Go
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, because we need the
Got this."
validation. Huh? We like, I already knew, my intuition was telling me that, but then we still need that other person to like, yeah, exactly.
Totally, and I think that's where the 2 come together. It's like you have this intuition, you can feel it, and you're like, "But, but,
Mhm.
but, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Am I making this up?" And then someone's like, "No, that's great. It's so beautiful. Go. That makes so much
Yeah,
sense. I love that offer."
yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think the solopreneur is I think it's a tricky feat because I think it can be it's that's where I'm like personal development and brand development are one. Like because there's so much stuff going on in your head that
Hmm.
you have to unpack to allow yourself to show up fully and to share
Hmm.
your gift with the world and then my goodness to also ask to get paid. I mean, it's like I
Yeah.
can't believe like the guts it takes to do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, I think it really is about like paying attention to what's going on also in our current noodle.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like what are the thoughts rolling around in there?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and for me, from my own journey, when I create a product, when I sell something, my first step is always the graphic. I need to have
Right.
something that represents the energy of the container I put out. So I create a
Totally.
logo and the energy behind it. And from that place, the landing page flows. I get excited. I put it out there.
Yep.
It's a creative process in itself. And obviously there are people that are different. But like you said, right, we tend to attract people that are similar to us. And so if you have also been struggling with selling or putting products and services out there, maybe it's just the little branding part that has been missing, so you actually get to enjoy the whole process and the creativity behind.
Absolutely. I mean, my friends used to make fun of me when they would be like, "Why are you going back and you're fiddling with your sales page before you even know exactly what you're selling?" And I'm like, "That's where I work it out. It's like I'm
Yeah.
workshopping through visuals because it's almost like, you go into a room and you organize it, and then you kind of feel like, or like, "Oh, I get it. Like, okay, I get where I'm going with this."
Mhm.
And so I do need to be in the creative process before I really know fully what's going on. I mean, we just did this with, which we're going to be sharing with you guys, the branding that I did for our class. Like, I needed to, it kind of came alive as as I was just fiddling. It's like, oh, this is the
Mhm.
direction this is going. This is
Yeah.
why I'm doing this.
Let's talk about the class. So what are we having as a surprise for everyone?
So you and I are doing a masterclass together, and it really is about how creating your magnetic marketing manual utilizing astrology, human design, gene keys, and AI. So you get to understand and you get to have this marketing manual, this brand strategy that I think is so important. It'll make everything in your business so much more intuitive and effective, and cohesive after you learn how to bring all these tools, how to like actually put it into the branding world.
Yeah, so it's a two-part masterclass, right? I think it's gonna be a total of 4 hours with the both of us, so this is a super special treat, and I will be helping everyone with the human design, gene keys aspect, also a little bit astrology because I help you decide basically if you're more leaning towards the tropical or the true sidereal version, or maybe there's even another version that you feel drawn to. And then Kelly is gonna really bring in her branding expertise, and obviously you're also a astrology wizard yourself, right? So, yeah, I'm super, super excited because you're gonna walk away with some really actionable steps on like, you get a clarity on really what branding is and what you can actually do to start creating your own brand, especially with the
Absolutely.
power of
Yeah.
AI,
So
right?
you actually I really go through branding because I'm like,
Mhm.
man, if it took me that long for me to get it, I can only imagine what's going on with
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, like, so, or solopreneurs or like whatever it is. So basically, we go through that part, you understand that, but then the actual documents you receive, um, I'll guide you to a place in the chart. I always have people look at their north and south node, and I'll explain why in the master class, like why that really is. You have handouts that accompany that. And then I also have a series of questions that you can ask to create or like to start to excavate all of this knowledge. In addition to, you've been studying with an Elena that you can learn all of your different, all of these different parts and choose which system feels better for you. And the point isn't to be in over research mode. Like we talked about that. Like, you don't need to be in this deep dive studying. You don't need to be a human design expert. You don't need to know astrology. You don't need to know gene keys. The point is just gathering this information that sometimes we miss. And then you get to collect it on a document.
Mhm.
And then basically then that's where you can then start to feed it into ChatGPT. So you're walking away with basically all of the tools for your research for your brand strategy. And then you get to go from there and actually decide what is the direction you want to take your brand in. Because now you know
Mhm.
what we tend to miss or don't even take the time to look at because we think, oh, that's not important. I don't need to know
Yeah,
that.
but it's a foundation of everything, right? And I also remember for myself, because this whole thing with ideal client avatar and then bringing it together with branding and colors, there's so many contradicting information out in the web
Absolutely.
on my own. Because then you're gonna, okay, what are the branding colors for a Taurus moon or whatever, right? And my head is spinning and I'm all over the place and it could be everything and nothing. So with your guidance, it really helped me to like, well, yeah, really, this is it. And obviously for me also was then with the true sidereal, that was like, oh, this is really it now. And it's like you feel so picked up. And it's all these things you kind of knew inside, but you didn't trust yourself and you were still following all the noise outside. And then,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
I mean, and I
powerful.
think ultimately that's why I fell in love with astrology and human design and gene keys is all they are is permission slips. You get to choose the permission.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, do you want to do this? Does this feel good? If it doesn't, don't do it. It isn't like we have this inner wisdom. It's just very hard to tap into
Hmm.
and to hear it. But I think sometimes when we're being shown like this validation, it's like you kind of can't deny it.
Hmm.
So there you get to own it.
Yeah. So we help you to create a brand from within yourself, right? That really makes you stand out because I think there's just so much cookie cutter out there. And I don't like when people are like, this is how you have to do it. This is what's gonna sell or these colors are the most popular one. I mean, then I'm gonna look like everybody else, right?
Absolutely. And that's not the
Yeah.
point. Like the point really, there isn't, branding isn't, I think that's a thing that I really want to set people free with. It's not tricky.
Mm.
It's really just knowing yourself and then feeling confident enough
Yeah.
to showcase it.
Yeah. And you have a gift, guys. I'm really letting you know this masterclass series is a huge gift from us because it's super affordable if you sign up before the end of April 1st, right?
Right.
Midnight.
April on midnight and April 1st.
Yeah, not a joke.
Not a joke.
Not a joke. You get in for $47 and then it will go up to 77, which is still honestly a steal. But it's almost like a workshop. You really get to work on this stuff and walk away with some immense clarity. And you may just go along and start your brand and pick your branding colors and all the things, at least get on that path. And I think that's super valuable because there's so many amazing embarking entrepreneurs out there, or maybe you have been an entrepreneur for a while already, right? But I think oftentimes we can get stuck in this like, oh, to have a brand, I need to hire a web designer. I have to have a luxury photo shoot. I have to have X amount of money to even have that, right? But what I love with your approach, Kelly, because I think we're very similar with that, it's not that difficult, right? Like you say, it can be easy. Let's take out the myths that are out there and
Mm,
actually show you the things that are really going to move the needle, and you don't have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for it. I mean, you can, obviously, you can always go fancier, but if you're serious about your business and you like a good visual brand yourself, just imagine what impact it can make for yourself, right? When you also are some eye candy for people when they come to your website or your programs.
absolutely. And I think too, like anything, when you start to uncover this stuff, like it's for those that like dread posting Instagram posts or dread creating newsletters because the content creation takes the better part of a day. And you're like,
Mm.
this sucks. I feel like I really got nothing accomplished. And then it's crickets. And this alleviates so much of that because you get to quit, you know what you're saying. And a lot of times, like our brands really get known because we're saying the same thing over and over again. It's the same message. And so we're just figuring out, well, where is the connection point in there? Like, how am I talking about this? What is the problem? How can I like show this in a different way that they don't really quite understand? It's like it always reminds me whenever I see like somatic practitioners, like there was one really great one or she always shows like an example of one. Like one of them was like someone always washing their hands when they were really sticky. And I was like, I had no idea that was a sign of somatics. Like I'm like stuff like that where you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that was a problem. And like this might actually be the solution to the problem that I didn't know that I had. And a lot of times that's our work in marketing
Mhm.
is showcasing that. And so creating the content with ease that's actually getting a resonance with your audience. Like
Mm.
sometimes I don't think people like if you can do this upfront work, the everything that you do going forward is so much easier and actually so much more effective. So
Yeah.
I would just say, like anybody, no matter where you are in your branding stage, I think so very few people take the time to really think about these things and organize them in a way where you have access to them going forward.
Mm.
When you're doing anything, whether it's picking your colors, whether it's creating an offer, whether it's writing your weekly newsletter. And so if you can kind of create this guide that isn't some arbitrary guide, because I remember like the ideal client avatar exercises, I was like,
Oh
how
my
does it
gosh.
help me if I know
So
my client drives
boring.
a Subaru? Like, I don't,
Exactly right. I
it,
was always like, my whole body was resisting, and I was paying thousands and thousands of dollars for these programs. I
I
mean,
know. I was like, this does not resonate with me. What I need is language. What
yeah.
I need to know what I'm doing
Hmm.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, what I want to just emphasize here, because I know Kelly's also really humble, just like me, right? So you're not only going to walk away with like the branding, some of the aesthetics that you can start to create, but most importantly, also the language behind. So I mean, I know you don't call yourself, but you're also really like a beautiful copywriter. I love how you articulate things. It blows my mind sometimes because I sent you a couple of things for the landing page and then you rewrote it and was like, wow, it sounds so much cooler. So you definitely have a gift there, and you told me that was you even studied it in college, right? So that
I
which
did.
is
I
the
got a creative rating degree.
yeah, so here you go. Kelly has a creative writing degree, so you're gonna also get some of that magic in the masterclass, just as a side
Which
note.
I do like kind of joke about that. I'm like, yeah, I guess that gives me credentials, but I'm like, I honestly had no idea what to do with it. I was like, I got hired in marketing right out of college. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
that's not what I was planning.
Yeah.
But I having what I write how I talk and I teach my clients, which we can
Mhm.
go over that as well as like just some basic copy tips of like,
Mhm.
if you infuse it with the way that you talk, your reader is going to want to read it. Then it becomes more
Mhm.
conversational. And so,
Yeah.
and you can ask ChatGPT for help with that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I cannot wait for even the class for myself. It's gonna be so much fun. So we're gonna share all of this in the show notes. And Kelly, would you like to have a peek at your chart?
I would love to.
Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So, because we were already talking a little bit about the transformation into a projector. So this is your regular chart. That looks familiar, right?
It does. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
the heart is in a heart shape in the middle. I love
Yeah, they changed that recently in Genetic Matrix, and I enabled that function. I was like, that is so sweet.
that's very sweet.
Yeah. So one thing, just knowing you, right? What stood out is that your unconscious Earth is gate 44 or Gene Key 44. And when I first learned about this gate, actually, that's the preparation of the cell. That's to make things pretty. That's the
Oh,
graphic designer. And that's your purpose gene key in your regular. In the gene keys itself, it doesn't talk so much about the aesthetics and the beauty, but I really clearly remember that from human design. And then the 26 is like actually making the cell, and which you have that gate twice, even conscious and unconscious, right? The 26. So
no
you
way.
also have that skill, right, to really sell it then, because through the creative writing we were just talking about. So that's just one thing that I was like, ooh. And the 44 is an intuitive energy, right? Like you intuitively tune into it's about patterns, recognizing patterns and also connecting with people. It's also a lot about teamwork, this energy. So that is just something when I saw your chart, it was like,
That is so funny because I and like full transparency, I don't know. I know human design enough to
mm,
understand my chart and same with gene keys. Like, so I'm not, so it's so helpful to hear this. And I remember somebody reading my chart and they're like, oh, you're meant for marketing. And I was like, what? Because it's funny, I'm not actually in branding for marketing. I'm into it because I love the art of self-expression.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm like, I think that there must be something else in there as well. Like
Mhm.
it's
Yeah. And you also very interesting, your unconscious moon, which is, we call this the attraction sphere in the gene keys. And in human design, you saw it's called the creative,
creative. Yeah, I've read on that one before.
right?
Right.
That's the very authentic, but it's also the most masculine. Like it's like pouring out your most authentic self into the world, basically, right? That's really what the one is all about. And the one is also, it's all about, actually that one is called, the city is called beauty, and the gift is called freshness. It's about, you don't, this process you described of how you created the landing page, you didn't know the outcome, but you just took one step at a time and it came out of it, right? So you're really living that in a very, very beautiful way. And then you have so your unconscious north node, actually, for some reason, I feel like looking at this is gate 29. It's also your core wounds. So, which turns that into your vocation. 29 is all about devotion, right? It's about devoting yourself to the one thing. So you're doing that, right? You're very specific in one area. So
Mm.
I think that's really, really cool. And you have a defined head in ajna, right? So speaking your mind is very, very important. And you may sometimes actually need to talk a lot before you have your own clarity,
I do.
right?
Totally. Yeah. My
So
poor friend, we just go on walks and she just lets me process.
yeah, I mean, I think we all need that. But now, so here is the emotional generator, right, in this charts. So we find great resonance here. And you have a lot of in astrology, you have a lot of Leo in your sun is Leo. I think both of your north nodes, everything. There's a lot of Leo in your chart,
Yeah,
right?
it's Leo rising, Leo north node, and Leo sun.
Yeah, even unconscious, I think, is also Leo. So now your true sidereal, you have a projector, your splenic projector. And what's so funny, right? We just talked about it on the episode. Everything you describe from your journey is really this, like, we can say, yeah, you responded to life like a generator, but it can also really be seen as, okay, you didn't see your own magic. You were doing your thing and people kind of saw you and like, oh my God, you're amazing. You're so good at this graphic design. And you were like, well, I don't have a degree, but then you accepted the invitation, right? Because it felt good. It was the thing that really brings you alive, and then guiding other people into their own branding. And now your unconscious earth, it's so cool. I think how we have these different energies is the 18. And the 18, and this entire channel here, the 1858, is all about, and in combination with the 1762. I mean, you almost have the entire circuitry here. So the 48 is about perfecting things. You see what is misaligned. You see, there's also there's judgment in it. We can get stuck in perfectionism, obviously, in the shadow, but you see right away, okay, this needs to be shifted. This needs to be aligned, right? This we can perfect it. We can make it better and improve it. And I mean, obviously, that's also a lot what this branding, graphic design, also with the messaging work is about, right?
Well, I think, yeah, I think that's part of like my attraction to Aquarian energy because it's very much like the innovator. It's like,
Mm,
wait, 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 wait. We've been doing it this way for so long and nobody's questioning it. Like
mhm.
Elon Musk with the Tesla. Like it's like
Yeah.
driving cars this way. Well, let's make them look this way and run this way. Like why not? And so I think
Mm,
sometimes like that's why I'm looking at like I'm like this is silly that we're all branding this way. Like you can put a circle that you took in Canva and you can make that your logo. Like it really gets to be very simple and very
yeah.
accessible. Why are we
Yeah.
making this so hard?
Mm, yeah. I love it. And the 33 you had in your other chart, I think that was your conscious sun, right? The 33.
Yes. Yep.
That is now your pearl. That's your conscious, so it has a lot to do with prosperity.
Oh no way.
Yeah, yeah, because there are a lot of similarities, right? So, and then you have a lot of storytelling in your chart, the 56. It's also
So
the
that is probably like that's the way I also guide my clients with writing copy is this idea of sharing through story, which I think is why I'm so hung up on this idea of really knowing yourself.
mm,
Because when you can give an example, then like when I said the thing about me learning that I was creative, like you understood why it was
mhm,
important. And
mhm.
people that's how people communicate. Like ultimately that's how we
Yeah,
receive
yeah,
story.
yeah.
I do like that my throat is defined because I've always been like, wait, I don't I never felt like I was somebody that had an undefined throat. Like
You know what? I would have said the same about you because I have known you now for a little bit, because you have a very consistent energy in how you speak. And I feel I'm the opposite. And I have a defined throat in my tropical and an undefined in my true sidereal. And for me, the undefined feels so much more true. Like,
really?
yeah, yeah, totally. And again, not to make the other one wrong, but the few things that I kind of try to fit myself into from the tropical, they got
Totally.
they got like the puzzle got solved in my true sidereal chart. And you still have a lot of, you have two channels going from the ajna to the throat, right? So you still need to talk a lot of talking. That's actually as a projector in general, but you need a sounding board. You want to subscribe to a sounding board. Like seriously, like you need a sounding board and a sounding board to talk things out, right? And you also, I mean, you're highly intuitive, you're a splenic projector, right? You have that inner knowing. And I can see that in your work. You're so decisive. I mean, I also know, Shadow, we can be indecisive, but my experience working with you is like this girl has it down. Like she's like, pick the color, it looks cool. Let's just do it. Right.
Well, what's funny is like the only place I'm that decisive in my life is design.
Yeah.
It
But
it
that's your zone of genius.
it doesn't and I'm like, I wish this was transferable because the immobilized by indecision, like I can be in that in a hot like,
Yeah.
do I sign up for this course? Do I not sign up for this course? Do I do this mentor?
Mhm.
Like who for some reason going forth with words and design,
Yeah. So
I think it's very
there, it's very, very important for you to talk it out. You really have to talk those kind of
I
decisions,
do.
because you have so much going on in your head. And don't be shy to call a bunch of friends, reach out to me like, hey, because at some point you will know. You're going to talk yourself into your decision. That's usually what happens. But like, oh, okay, now I know. And sometimes you have to talk for a couple of hours to get that
Yeah,
clarity,
absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So, yeah. And then, so, I mean, actually, because it's so strong in your chart. So, I don't know if you know the Pearl sequence in the Gene Keys,
Mm-hmm.
but you have, so the Pearl sequence consists of your unconscious Mars, your unconscious Jupiter, and your conscious Jupiter, right? And then your Sun, which is here now the 52. So, the 56, like I told you, is all about storytelling, especially in human design. So this circuitry, the 56, the 33, which you have the 56 twice and then the 33 here. So storytelling is like humongous for you. It's like triple amplified for you, right? And then the 52, we always want to look at the program part of the 52 it's about stillness. It's about, you know, it's almost like you look at the forest and you see the one tree where you need to go, right? It's also now your sun is in Cancer. It's a little bit different energy, but you
Right.
still have a lot of Leo still in your chart. I looked at the
Totally.
astrology as well.
Mhm.
So, and the programming partner is the 58, which is your conscious Earth, which is, we call this the joy of mastery, right? Through doing things over and over again, you become masterful. So, you know, I think it's just really,
Which I think is actually kind of comforting because I've always like when I found out I was a 1-3, I didn't really so much resonate with like I'm always like a learner because the line one is so one, but I'm like when I find something that I'm obsessed with, I become like obsessed with being masterful at it. And
yeah.
this has been my area of focus, this branding for over a
Mhm.
decade of like
Mm.
really digging at it. It's really
Yeah.
branding personal development of like figuring out how does the
Yeah.
brain work in a way where we're comfortable enough to showcase ourselves.
Yeah. I love it.
So I actually think that makes more sense to me. Like mastery shows up, but only if I'm like feeling some affection towards. Otherwise, I'm like, it's fine.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it can show up as a challenge for us because the Earth usually is something, we call it the evolution gene key, and the gene keys that presents itself through life as a challenge for ourselves over and over again. But it's definitely, yeah, they are strong energy. And then your North Node, so the 53 here, right, is all about starting things. It's a very ambitious energy. And the 62 is about precision and details, and also that true intelligence is like listening to your heart. It's not so much with the mind, right? It's all about that connection. Like, who are you being? Are you really listening to yourself?
And that one was 62, my North Node.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
thank you so much. This is so fascinating.
yeah, it's fun, right? And obviously, there's so much more. But I think it's fun because Kelly literally, like, she told me like, yeah, I was wondering if I have something from a projector, and then I was like, yeah, your true sidereal chart is actually projector.
So when I had my the tropical version read to me, it was one of the persons or one of the readers had because I had several
Mm.
basically said you have a lot of projector channels, and I was like, I just couldn't figure
Yeah,
out why.
yeah, exactly. And I have also done master classes on this. Like, just the anything that had an ajna defined, that part is like a mental projector if nothing else would be defined. So I have
Mm.
numerous people that are actually, especially generators, and like me now too. I'm a generator even in true sidereal, but I haven't had an ajna defined. And I feel a lot like a projector. People ask me often like, "Are you a projector?" And no, I'm not. But and most channels and gates in the human design chart for all of us are projected energies. That's
Oh, really?
why, yeah, the only the gates that come off the sacral and the channels are generated channels. And then there's only 3 manifested channels, so 3.5 kind of. And almost, I don't know if it's 75% or something off the chart or 60 or something, is all projected. That's why almost everyone to some extent can really relate a
To
lot
the
to the
projector.
projector. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a
Mm.
world built for generators.
Yeah. Well, the generator is also is we're here to respond, right?
Mhm. And
It's
energetically, like, you get like,
yeah.
I know I'm even saying you guys, like, I was one, I thought.
Yeah,
I
no.
really do resonate so much better with the projector, like, even, like, I can go,
Yeah.
go, go, but then when I'm done, I'm done. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
a huge introvert.
Mhm. Yeah. You see. You see. Yeah, interesting exploration. Excited to see how that's gonna go.
Yeah. Yeah, will you send me that chart?
I will.
Okay,
Absolutely.
awesome. I'm gonna read on
Perfect.
those gene keys and feed ChatGPT some more food.
Yeah, wonderful. So thank you so much for coming on, Kelly. I also make sure I put all your contact information in the show notes. And you guys, you're all invited to join us for the masterclass April 10 and April 12. Take advantage of the early bird pricing.
Mhm, yeah, we're gonna put the link to the class below
Yeah,
the okay, perfect.
exactly. Yeah, perfect. So thank you, Kelly, for being here. And
Yes,
well, I'm
thank you so much for
excited for the
having me.
masterclass.
All right, we'll
Yeah.
see you guys soon.
All right.